and we are a blockchain solution for the cannabis industry. Cannabis actually has a respected history. Not sure if many of you knew that, because I know it has a bad image right now. As early as 2700 BC, historians believe that the father of Chinese medicine, Emperor Shen Hung, uncovered the medical properties of marijuana. So it's been around for a while. By 1500 BC, the Chinese pharmacopoeia listed some of those medical properties. In the next 2,000 years, the use of medical marijuana moved from Egypt to India and to Greece. By the Middle Ages, it was a common herbal remedy. So we need to get back to the Middle Ages. Jamestown settlers brought hemp to the New World, and George Washington cultivated it. However, in the 1930s, a new invention made it cheaper to produce paper with hemp than with wood chips. William Randolph Hearst saw this as a threat to his paper and lumber empire. So he used his newspapers to spread sensationalized stories about marijuana. And Henry Anslinger, head of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, also crusaded against the supposed evils of marijuana, calling it a killer drug that leads to insanity, death, and all kinds of other crazy things. Unfortunately, because of those things that Harry and everyone that decided to go against cannabis did, a series of laws restricted and then outlawed marijuana, which is where we are now. The Marijuana Tax Act of 1937, the Controlled Substance Act of 1970, and the Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 1986 all started out with taxation, followed by criminalizing, and ultimately a mandatory sentence was set for marijuana crimes, even death sentence. The FDA classified it as a Schedule I drug. This labels it as a drug with high potential for abuse and no medical value at all. If any of you know about cannabis, you know that that's 100% not true. Eventually, people petitioned the FDA to move marijuana from a Schedule I to a Schedule II, where it could be tested and researched. The American Medical Association weighed in and said, yes, we need to test marijuana. But the FDA denied the request and pushed aside any respected reports that debunked the stories of addiction and crime, which encouraged the political opinion to shift to where it is now. The waste of money and manpower is staggering. Between 2001 and 2010, 8.2 million people were arrested for marijuana charges. That's 50% of all US drug arrests, and 88% of that were for simple possessions of marijuana, all at the cost of taxpayers' dollars, and that cost was $3.6 billion, all because of the spread of false information. If you look it up, it's called reefer madness. So people had already felt the medical benefits of cannabis, and they asked for redress. Epilepsy is one thing that helps with cannabis. DEA judges, the New England Journal of Medicine, and the American College of Physicians all recommended research to better learn the medical benefits of cannabis. Yet, in spite of the evidence, the DEA refused to make any changes. So, voters made the change. In 1996, California, that's where I'm from, became the first marijuana state to legalize marijuana as recreational. Alaska, Oregon, and Washington followed. Then, over the next 21 years, dozens of other states decided to follow along, many who have made it recreational, but most have made it medicinal. So you have to ask yourself, is it criminal or is it not? The mix of federal prohibition and state legalization creates serious problems for the cannabis industry. Legality depends on where you are, who you talk to, and what the government dictates at any given moment. Farmers, dispensaries, and patients all struggle in this regulatory confusion. The cannabis industry problems. There's a lot, but I'll just list a few. Compliance. As people try to comply, they have to deal with records that are often incomplete, laws and regulations that are state by state, perhaps even county by county, definitely country by country. Cannabis and medical prescriptions cannot cross state lines or countries. And businesses spend a great deal of time and energy confirming doctors have the authority to prescribe and patients have the permission to buy. Purity. It's hard to track and verify the purity and chemical properties of cannabis at any given moment. When you receive the end product, how can you know if it was really grown organically? How can you guarantee what the lab results really were? Banking. I know a lot of you know about money. So federal laws make it nearly impossible for cannabis companies to use credit cards or any financial services at all. Imagine how hard it is when every transaction has to be done in cash. And cannabis companies, which have no bank to store this cash in, what are they supposed to do? It's not only cumbersome, but it's really dangerous. And I speak firsthand because I own a cannabis company, which is how I got into this. It's not fun taking $10,000 every week to your lawyer in cash. Trust. Cannabis was forced into a shadowy business, so naturally trust is a huge issue. Can you trust the people you're dealing with, and will they really provide you with what they say they're providing? Blockchain, or a decentralized ledger, fits like a glove to the cannabis industry problems. It can bring efficiency, transparency, and trust to this fragmented industry. Most people, especially here, know about Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, but what they may not know is that it's built on the blockchain, a system of writing transactions and information into this immutable ledger. Our blockchain solution is called Paragon. It offers a simple solution to the cannabis industry, and it's a solution that's really needed. Right now, there's no one organization for all cannabis data, no agreed upon method to track information, and no standardization. Paragon offers that unifying system. Once the rules are set on the blockchain, obviously it runs flawlessly. It creates organization and standardization for an industry that desperately needs it. We all know trust is fundamental in the cannabis space. But when it comes to trusting unknown companies, people, and ideas, something amazingly profound is happening now because of technology. Can anyone in here raise your hand if you've ever taken Uber? Yeah, it's 2017, so most of you. Can you guys raise your hand if you own or have ever owned Bitcoin? Yeah, well, it makes sense in this conference. And have any of you used Tinder? So, yeah, nobody really went halfway. So these are all examples of how technology is creating new mechanisms that are enabling us to trust unknown people, companies, and ideas. The cannabis industry trust issues come from dealing with cash and questionable information from people that we may not necessarily know. But imagine the blockchain removing that trust issue. You need not verify who you're dealing with because Paragon already has. And that's important in cannabis, I promise you that. You don't want a drug deal gone bad. No more wasting time verifying ordinance and laws, patient IDs, and doctors' recommendations. No more worrying that information could be flawed or tampered with. Paragon's application can quickly and easily verify accurate identifications and ensure that all rules have been met. It will save money, time, and literally lives. What's more, it can limit the information, so the receiver only gets the information that's needed. For example, a dispensary can verify a patient's ID, the prescribing doctor, and the expiration date, without having to know the patient's medical history, see their driver's license, or know their address, or anything to that measure. It's really a fantastic solution, and this is HIPAA compliant. Imagine always knowing the quality and history of the cannabis that reaches the consumer. What if patients need not rely on the reputation of a dispensary or the knowledge of a bud tender to know the product potency and purity? What if patients were able to see all of that with one quick scan of a QR code? Everyone, including the government, can trust this immutable ledger that can be pulled up. Did something change? Oh. Sorry, guys. Everyone, including the government, can trust this immutable ledger that can be pulled up, reviewed, and verified at any time by anyone forever. Paragon can record every step of the cannabis process. Growers can record everything from the plant type to the date it was harvested. And labs can record everything from the cannabinoids in a strain to if the batch tested positive for mold. This blockchain plant identifier can follow a specific plant from the grower to the lab to the dispensary. All of this will allow patients to see anything and everything that they need with a quick QR scan. Our Paragon blockchain solves the trust issues the cannabis industry is facing, and PRG is our crypto token that solves the cash issues the cannabis industry is facing. Right now, we can't legally buy or sell cannabis with PRG or any crypto token because of federal regulations, but it can support the infrastructure. Growers can use PRG to buy growing equipment or pay lab fees, and dispensaries can use PRG to pay bud tenders or drivers. This is all eliminating the risk of paying others in cash, making them a target to possibly be robbed. It's a serious problem in the cannabis industry, especially when you're dealing with large amounts of cash. Moreover, Paragon is set up to offer co-working spaces that run with PRG. Right now, it's incredibly difficult to find any kind of office space in a green zone, let alone a landlord that's willing to rent to a cannabis company. Our space will make it easy for cannabis startups to work from a safe place with like-minded people. Kind of like we're all here today to work with like-minded people. The cannabis industry needs this as well. Paragon will also have an online community that provides transparent governance. Each PRG holder will have a say in where Paragon spaces are built and how Paragon runs. It will be open and truly democratic. Paragon is not trying to be everything for everyone. We have a clearly defined ecosystem, and that's cannabis. We know and understand the process from seed to sell. Our depth of business expertise, passion for the cannabis cause, and understanding of the blockchain potential make us the perfect blockchain and cryptocurrency to help the cannabis industry needs. So, if you guys want to chat with us, we have a booth, and I have a few people up here in the front, and that's Paragon. Thank you, guys.